it was Grateful Dead music. And the Grateful Dead music just evolved in its own way. We went through our psychedelic ranger period where it was like crazed improvisation and 45-minute songs and feedback and all kinds of sound effects and just super far out improvisatory kind of music. And then in about 1970, Jerry and Hunter started writing songs, like neat little, like 3-minute, 4-minute songs that told stories, or were, they were definitely the song form kind of came to the fore, which it hadn't been there before in that respect, and that sort of turned us, that sort of. We sort of just went in that direction for 3 or 4 years, and then after we took a break in like '75 and came back to touring and playing together in late '75, and at that point it seemed like what we were trying to do is diffuse those two approaches, so that we take these little songs and string them together and then put wild jams and improvisational music in between them, and sometimes open up the song in the middle and do some and just go into some other world, and then come back to the song and finish it. And so and that was pretty much the model, the paradigm for our music. Then for the next 20 years or so was the fusion of those two things: the wild, balls against the wall improvisation, and the tight little song that told a story or set a scene or created an emotional situation. So it was pretty much A, B, and then A, B.
For those little stories that were being told in the songs, what was influencing you guys to write and tell that story?
Well, it's a funny thing about how songs come into being. They're like poems. Anything can trigger it. You can hear a squeaky brake drum on a truck somewhere that coincides with a jackhammer in a construction project, and the combination of those two things will suggest a musical idea, a rhythm, or a little melodic riff or something like that, and that just starts a musician's mind working. And sometimes it doesn't go anywhere, and sometimes then there'll be a melody will arise out of that. And the same way with a poet or a lyricist, a phrase spoken overheard in a coffee shop, or a line in a letter that somebody writes you, or a street sign even. It just triggers associations, and those associations can form themselves into a line, and then it's just like a question of trying out the line, see where it goes. Here's line A. Does this work well with it to make a line B? No, let's okay. How about this? And you sort of build it up brick by brick, as it were. And so but at the same time, lyricists especially are influenced by what they read, and musicians, of course, are influenced by what they hear. So there's a lot of subconscious borrowing that goes on. This has been traditional in music, at least for hundreds of years. Bach and Handel, for instance, in the 18th century, were notorious borrowers. They borrowed from each other. They borrowed from themselves. And they would just continually transform their music, and that was also happening in classical music in the 20th century, where composers like Barrio and Boulez would never complete the piece. They would always be adding to it or continuing it. So it's a kind of a time-honored tradition. So the combination of just immediate inspiration that something you see or hear or read, and those influences that are always part of you. It's a combination of all those things. That's the basic, the ground that the music that the songs arise from. Because when we're satisfied and we're getting off on what we're doing, the audience is going to get off on it too. What we're basically trying to do is we're taking that energy that's coming from the audience, and we're trying to transmute it and trying to take it to a higher level in a way by transforming the raw energy into something that has form and tells a story in its own way. But basically what's happening is we're trying to tap into that eternal music that's always playing in the cosmos out there somewhere. And we just the best thing we can do, or best thing I can do as a musician, is to lose myself, is to forget about myself and forget about whatever it is I'm trying to do, and just be all ears and hands. You know, there's no ego or no fill there at all. At the best moments, there's nobody there. There's only the music, which comes through that pipeline, and in relation to what else you're hearing from the other musicians, and then you just pass it through, you know, and that's when it's the best, and that's when the audience knows that it's you know, that they got a good one. And of course, it doesn't always happen. There's a little bit of a random element to it. But you can, with years and years of experience, you can open yourself. You can learn how to open yourself to those moments and make them and sustain them for longer. Hard to say. Oh, Crosby, Stills and Nash for sure. They just sang so beautifully, and we'd known Crosby for a long time, but they started. They were, Crosby moved up here in like '69 or something, and we were hanging out together, and they were when we were starting to write our songs, when we were starting to move into the song space from the psychedelic improvisational space. They happened to be hanging out, and so they coached us a little, you know, on harmony singing stuff, and it was really very, very fruitful, and we actually learned to sing better through hanging out with them. And well, there's always influences that come by, but it's for me it was rarely rock and roll bands. It would be individual musicians or some drummer that plays a certain way, and I thought, wow, I really dig that. And so I would play, then I'd go back to the band and I would play as if that guy were playing in our band, and it would change. It would change the way that our drummers played, you know, and everybody else in the band too. So it's just, I mean, I don't even remember the names of some of these people, but so for me it wasn't necessarily an influence of another band or anything like that. It was like isolated musicians, and then all of the other music that I'm constantly listening to: world music, jazz music, classical music. You know, my two main heroes are John Coltrane and Charles Ives. Have you ever heard of Charles Ives? He's an American composer, born in 1874. And he's like the original transcendentalist American composer. He came out of the philosophical school of Emerson and Thoreau and the Alcotts in New England, and also very, very heavily influenced by Whitman as well. So his music is, to me, is the ultimate. It's the ultimate music in a sense, because what it does is it provides you with a picture of somebody's consciousness, somebody's entire mind, with all of the little side trips and little crannies and the things that you're thinking about that you don't know you're thinking about while you're thinking about something else. Levels of awareness and of thought processes. They're all intertwined in this music. And Ives used a lot of popular tunes of his day and hymn tunes from church, and he would weave them into the symphonic fabric. And the totality of it is just absolutely stunning. And it's like there's a human being here in front of you with all this different kind of thoughts and emotions and flaws all happening at the same time, just like in real life. So and that was such a huge hit on me. I mean, it just, you know, it was comparable really to my first experience with music. It's like, oh man, you know, how do you do this? I want to do that too.
I welcome you guys back on here. If you're new, consider subscribing, liking, and also share this video. So Phil Lesh, one of the bassists, and of course the founding member of the Grateful Dead, a group that really rocked the ears of so many people, according to reports saying that he died at the age of 84. Lesh's death was announced on Instagram on Friday, that was on October 25th, with a statement saying he passed peacefully this morning and no cause of death was given. He was surrounded by his family and full of love, according to what the statement read. They said further that Phil brought immense joy to everyone around him and leaves behind a legacy of music and love, and they request that you respect the privacy at this difficult time. He was a native in California, and he met his future bandmate, that is Jerry Garcia, at a party that was in Menlo Park in 1962, so many years ago. And by the way, his partner it was Lesh, Phil Lesh, performances to broadcast the local radio station KPFA, and the recording ultimately became a hit song, and the rest is history. He survived by his wife Jill, Graham, and Bren, and we are seeing so many tributes still coming in from so many people within Hollywood, within music, and of course entertainment world. We all know the rocker had underwent into a liver transplant that was in 1998, and went on to become an organ donor advocate, and in 2015 he underwent surgery for the gallbladder because he had issues in there, and they said he was expected to make a full recovery. He was still doing a couple of shows here and there, but of course unfortunately he passed on just yesterday. We are sending our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and everyone who was very close to the legend. We will be coming out to give you more updates with regards to the funeral and memorial service updates. RIP to the legend.